What's up, everybody? Welcome to Podcast No Plus. I'm Alex, and in this video, I want to look at a thing going on online. I think it was about yesterday that it came out, talking about Sony versus Microsoft in terms of who could be buying or who will in the future buy Japanese studios, whether it be a development studio or whether it be an actual publisher, who's got the leg up, all of that stuff. And funny enough, so I didn't know who this was from, but I've actually talked about this guy before. It came from Video Game Chronicles, and it came specifically from Dr. Serkin Toto, Chief Executive Officer of consultancy Canton Games. So we've talked about that, Canton Games, and they're a consultancy firm that focuses on Japan. So they would know, they would know very clearly. I think they just have their hands in different pockets of the world or of these video game industry types. And so basically what came from this was that Microsoft would have a tough time buying a Japanese studio. That he said the cultural barriers that Microsoft would have to overcome when purchasing a Japan studio or a Japanese studio just aren't there with PlayStation. Sony, of course, has the home field advantage, and some of the challenges that would come up for Microsoft would not apply to Sony. It doesn't have to be one of the publicly traded powerhouses, but I believe Sony is at least considering making a move in Japan soon. Now, that last part was interesting, right? Because when you talk about powerhouses, so you're probably talking about the bigger publishers, and you're saying maybe that's not what they'll do. Maybe they'll do something smaller. So does that take away Square Enix, Konami, Sega, Atlas? I mean, these are all kind of companies that you can keep going down the list. But these are Japanese companies that maybe Sony would take a stab at. So in terms of my opinion on it, I've said it before. I have obviously doing this consolidation thing isn't the greatest. I have seen more and more arguments, and I guess I get it. I truly do understand it, because it's like, well, what else are you really going to say when it's like, well, if it's going to happen no matter what, why not just try to get a piece of the pie before it's gone? And you know what? There really isn't a great comeback to even myself, the king of just having something to say in reverse. I can't really, like if Microsoft, if your idea that you're pitching me on is that Microsoft is just going to buy all these companies up in the next 10 years anyway, or Tencent, most likely one of the two will get them, right? And I'm, again, not saying good or bad, but if those companies are going to eat them all up anyway, why not? Why are we supposed to get mad at Sony for trying the same thing? Now, I would say that it doesn't stop the idea of like just saying, well, I don't like it in general. I don't really like anybody doing it, so I'd prefer you all keep your hands off each other. That's my personal standpoint of it. But it is interesting, right? Because when you think of who's left, right? You think of who's left. EA, Warner Bros, Take-Two. The biggest ones that you think of, I think, immediately are the ones that are actually Japanese centric, right? Because you do think of the Take-Twos, whoever gets a Take-Two or Warner Bros or Discovery, right? I mean, if you can get that, if you're Microsoft or Sony, right, that's a big deal. That's a huge deal. Then you have EA, Ubisoft, things like that. But then, the other ones, I mean, those are really the bigger ones. Then you think of, Square Enix. Square Enix is huge. Capcom, Konami, you go down the list. Again, Atlas, I think, would be kind of, that one's an interesting one. Sony kind of already has plenty of deals with Atlas to basically make Persona almost, 70% exclusive to PlayStation, right? So some of these I think make more sense than others to do, but that's what you're kind of left with. So I wouldn't be shocked at all if that's honestly, the Square Enix thing is a reach, because Square Enix is expensive, just like all of them, I guess. But when I think of what could be the next huge domino for both, I could see. I mean, maybe it was because of this cultural kind of thing, and we kind of just all assumed it anyway, but I could see that's how they end up falling. I mean, now, again, Bungie doesn't, you don't have to buy something that, I guess, like, if Sony buys something that's not Japanese, does that hurt the narrative? No, not really, you know what I mean? But I just think, would Sony get a Square Enix, or would they get the name like an EA, right? Like, who would be more willing to get one of those, Microsoft or Sony? Which one would they get? You would probably assume Microsoft would get the EA or Ubisoft. Or in fact, I actually think, well, Ubisoft is kind of everywhere, right? They're not just based in one place. So I don't know. I think it's definitely possible. But again, the way he says it is that maybe it won't be a big, but again, like Atlas, they're big, but they're not huge. They're not like Capcom. They're not Square Enix. They're not necessarily even Sega, but Atlas would be massive in a way. You know what I mean? So we'll see what exactly he means by that. But it is interesting to think of the cultural, impacts as well, where it's like, yeah, I could see that Japanese industries, would a Square Enix even want to sell to somebody like again, not like Microsoft is like the devil, like they're, they're Satan, they're so evil, but like just because of, they basically live in two different worlds. Now, Sony, who we think of as the figurehead of PlayStation, right, Jim Ryan, but like, because of Sony's history of Japan, obviously that would work out a little bit more for them. But it'll be very, very interesting to see who goes next, who's the next one's bought up by either of these two. So let me know what you guys think in the comments below. Make sure, as always, you guys are subscribed to the channel. Hit the bell icon so you guys know when all these videos go up, and I hope to see you all on tomorrow's video.